Gotta admit that I've sucked an ape or two in my day.
Damn, homie.
Chimps, orangutans, macaques, ironically enough. Capuchins, all in a line. Ran a train on them. It was pretty good, man. Super cool. But not as cool as dressing up like an ape and going to a fucking masquerade ball, I gotta say. A full disclosure, I have not humped apes.
How about sucked them? Because that's the claim you made.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm not denying the sucking. But I am denying the trains being run. We're talking about apes because they're mildly involved in what we saw today.
Very mildly.
Yeah, today we saw the Vincent Price collection as a whole. No, we saw The Masque of the Red Death, a classic Roger Corman, arguably Roger Corman's best Poe adaptation. And the word Roger Corman and best don't usually go hand in hand because, you know, he's more renowned for being this producer of schlock, knockoffs, and yes, as you said, Mad Dookie. Especially, you know, the further in his career he went. But there was a time where, despite knocking stuff off and then making quick cash off of things, he actually strived to be a filmmaker, and he did it all impressively so, and with a very small budgets and stuff like that.
They used to call him Quick Cash Corman.
Yeah. Also, they called him, you know, that guy. That
Good one, guy.
Quick wit is what they call me. But anyway, no. He's never had a stellar reputation in certain circles, but he is very beloved in others for certain reasons. And I'm one to most certainly see the best in him, not only in the stuff that he directed, but also in some of the stuff that he produced. But I gotta admit, the large swath of the stuff he's made is pure caca. But his Poe material was really fucking rad, man. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, when he most showed that desire to actually make something relevant and artistic. It's just, you know, he was working with really small budgets and with people that wanted to make quick cash.
Yeah, Quick Cash Corman.
This is when, you know, when he was really starting to make strides in the business. This was around the time that he made Masque of the Red Death, starring the inimitable Vinny P, as they call him in the streets. We call him PP, but that's just weird of us.
PP?
Yeah, it's weird. We call it and we forget, apparently. And you're like, PP? And I'm like, yeah, remember that? And
like, I forgot.
That's dead in the water, you say. Anyway, no, Vincent Price, man. One of the most beloved faces of horror.
Why PP?
I don't fucking know.
Prince Price?
Sure, Prince Prospero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Vincent Price, I mean, what is there to say about this man? Even people that don't like old school horror have a certain admiration for the man. You know, he's very charismatic, or was very charismatic. And he, man, and on top of that, he just looks
cool,
sinister and cool. Yeah. And you know, he's just one of those people. So you got fucking Vincent Price playing your bad guy in her Edgar Allan Poe production, where you're kind of putting all your everything into it, you know? Mm-hmm. And then you got cinematography from one of the greats, Nicholas Roeg. So this thing looks lavish and beautiful. You're using all these sets and stuff that are way over the budget that you actually possess.
You got Vincent Price in tights for half the movie.
Tights that look ridiculously crappy on him, but he makes it work. God damn, does he make it work. But so yeah, man, it was almost like, how can this fail? And it did. Horribly at the box office. But since then, you know, people have kind of like about faced on it. And it is, I think, regarded as the best. Certainly that's how I learned about it. You know, people speaking about it, writing about it being the best. And I recently revisited this when this whole COVID situation started. And it seemed extremely prescient, you know, like more than ever, possibly. But the theme of the fucking story is timeless, really. It just happened to really fit the air of what was going on. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the story, of course, disclosure here, Corman took liberties galore with his adaptations. So there's many liberties here taken from the Poe story. But the core essentials of the story are there. And that's really what matters. And he actually really runs close, and he never deviated too much from the style or the spirit when he did these. So there's that to take into account too. But this is a pretty good adaptation, I gotta say.
P good?
P damn good if you're concerned about the story, the material of the story. But, you know, I think it stands its own as a film as well, fantastically. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the story of the Masque of the Red Death, it's basically about this douchebag, Prince Prospero, which you made note that if there was ever a way to designate clearly that your character's a douchebag, just that ode to a bad quality.
Not only that, but he sounds like a really bad He-Man villain.
Yeah.
The Prospero guy? Come on.
So, yeah, man, it's about Prince Prospero, this fucking prince, I guess. Is his dad dead? I really don't even know. But anyway, he's and this Italian monarch, anyway, that is holding these revelries for the elite during a time when a plague is running rampant through the countryside. And basically, these revelries are you know, kind of like insulated affairs where he can protect those that, you know, basically adulate him and, you know, are not the peasantry, which he finds to be disgusting because of their, not only because of their poverty, but because of their reliance on faith. Yes, in this particular story, they really emphasize that Prospero is a satanic douche, almost to like camp level, you know. But there's something about Price where he just makes camp work, man. He's so fucking good in this. You know, there's something. He should be a despicable character, and he is. Don't get me. Every quality about Prospero is fucking detestable, but it's just so fun to watch Price chew on that.
But I hang out with him.
I'd hang out, man. I hang out in his revelries, man. And then I'd be like, damn, I
just died.
I did that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, but really, to note on Price's acting skills, there's always kind of like this underlying knowledge in the way he portrays Prospero that he is deathly afraid of death, and this is where this pomposity and this elitism is rooted, because, you know, this is really what he's doing. He's finding a way to escape death by surrounding himself with privilege and power, and you know, that's where his airs of superiority come from, and you know, kudos to Price for making that a thing, despite like you know, this over the top nature to Prospero. I don't think that's ever lost on the viewer. At least I don't think so. Did you feel that like that was a part of his personality, his fear of death?
Not really. It's pretty clear early on too. Like when he's in the village and he comes across, you know, it makes it pretty clear, even if you're not looking for it later on. Right. It's pretty obvious early on.
Yeah, and yeah, and then, you know, he's just so fascinating to watch in this fucking role, man. So yeah, that's the general gist.
He's pretty funny. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, it is, man.
Like I mean, he's mad douche mode like 24/7. But it's pretty, like, if you were to see clips from this out of context,
hilarious.
It's hilarious, yeah.
Hilarious. You know, it's basically an hour and a half of watching an asshole be an asshole to people in a smug and cool way.
Who are assholes, by the way.
Yes.
Most of the people who get the wrath of Price are indeed assholes also.
Yeah.
So you're like, good. Especially that fat guy that comes in and asks for his shelter. Yeah, and he just gets mad, an arrow to the neck. You're like, good, that guy sucked.
Yeah.
Visually.
The fact that these are all, you know, his cronies, his the upper crust of society, the people that, you know, that, again, yeah, basically that the air of cronyism is all around him, and it just makes it almost justifiable and satisfactory, for damn sure, for you as a viewer to kind of just enjoy him being a douchebag.
Yeah.
But then ultimately at the end, he is the biggest douchebag. So, you know, he's going to get his comeuppance. But, yeah, man, what's interesting about this particular film is that it strikes a very interesting balance between outright sleaze and a legitimate art film. You know, it's like right in the fucking middle. At times it could like you say, like especially if you take stuff out of context and just show scenes, it could come off as straight camp, as straight like overwrought insanity. But then you look at it and it's so meticulously photographed and staged, and it's very clear that there's a lot of intention put behind a lot of things, and a lot of those things largely function as intended, which was not always the case with Corman. Definitely not as time went on, but yeah, so it strikes a very interesting balance. It definitely looks that way. The way the last mass scene of death is portrayed is very, very artistic, instead of just being something gory or something like that. It's portrayed in almost a disturbing but literal dance of death.
Yeah. I was hoping there'd be some CGI babies, Iron Maiden style, but there wasn't.
They were like, nah. Corman, of all people, was like, nah, it's too bad.
It's too corny.
And
they call me Corman for a reason.
Unfortunately, it's because...
Corman.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah. Anyway, tell me something about Masque of the Red Death. This was your first time seeing it. You hadn't really heard anything about it or anything.
I assumed that there was going to be a mask and or death at some point.
And that it would be red.
Possibly red. Maybe blue. And there is a blue death, and that tells you that guy was being really careful where he was stepping. I was like, damn, homie, just step. It's a set.
You're death. You can't die.
Yeah. I have minor critiques.
All right.
I think that the chick, the like good chick, I don't remember her name.
Yeah, there's two female leads, I suppose. Yeah. There's your Melania Trumpish, acolyte, his number one hoe, that kind of forsakes her personhood because she's so much in the shadow and care of this guy that she's willing to give her soul over to Satan, as he is literally satanic in this,
Yeah.
And that wasn't a descriptor. He is literally a satanic guy. And then there is this innocent villager, faithful villager whose kind of hope is slowly chipped away by his antics as the movie goes on. You're referring to the more innocent one.
Yeah. I think that she was kind of uninteresting.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people with her. What's his name? Gino,
man.
And the other dude.
With his gabagool.
With the gabagool and her dad, which I thought were actually more interesting.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I guess I'm going to bring it down on her actress, maybe? I don't know.
I think maybe the character was just supposed to be an innocent palette.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Which
inherently is not very interesting.
There's ultimately, she's just kind of uninteresting. And yeah, because you see the other two characters that ultimately become more interesting because they have something to do, I guess, where she kind of doesn't.
She's more of an observer of what's going on.
Yeah, and she kind of has like some longer scenes early on, which kind of didn't hit for me. Like there's scenes where she's kind of exploring.
A go-to of Corman flicks, by the way, especially in the old days, since they had access to all these sets, whether they built them or not, or whether they were shooting movies back to back, they were like, man, we got to make the most use of these
shits for hours.
There's Corman movies where you're spending at least half the running time exploring. Now there's times when it works and there's times when it doesn't. I think in the case of for me anyway, and you'll continue on why it didn't work for you. But for me here, it works because it's such a lavish affair, so it's kind of cool. But it certainly is not a thing that people are gonna enjoy across the board. Just some person walking around.
I think it's because you kind of the first time you have a moment with her alone exploring, you had already seen that place in a better scene.
Yeah.
With Vincent Price going through the rooms and having these like monologues, and it's just interesting to look at. So when you revisit the rooms, you're like, all right, she's just walking through them.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then she goes into like this dungeon area, and it just feels kind of long, because it's uninteresting, and her character is kind of uninteresting. I was kind of worried that they were gonna focus on her a lot, but then they don't. So I was like, okay, good, because she's pretty uninteresting. And thankfully, she kind of takes a backseat and is put to where she should be. Yeah.
She's generally just used kind of again as a means to show you the audience view, if you will, of Prospero's depravities, but also kind of as like she is an innocent.
Yeah.
She is the one to not a maiden in need of rescuing, but you know, literally
a normal person. Yeah.
Yeah, literally in terms of the themes of the story, she is like a lamb in the in the midst of a slaughter, if you will.
I also think, and then you mentioned that it sometimes borders on campy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like the other chick, the evil chick or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She has like some satanic scenes, literally. And that's where you at least for me, I kind of appreciated how well Vincent Price pulled off the satanic stuff, because some of the stuff comes off a little corny with her, just saying the satanic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad, mind you, and it does ultimately work. But there is moments where it's like that's a little corny.
You know why I like that though? It is though, mind you. It is, as you say. But like you say, it ultimately works in the long scheme, in the long game, because it's like her overt sincerity in believing in this man, because she believes in this man, she believes in Satan, and it just comes off as real, actual Luciferian Satanists come off to anybody, as just as a overtly overzealous Christian would. It just comes off as corny. But it ultimately leads to the scene of her folly, all with Prospero kind of like lording over her, how stupid she is for doing this, and that really pays off well.
And it does work also when the payoff at the end with what's his face being like, "Man, you suck, homie."
Yeah.
So it does work, but I kind of don't know if that was the intention. You know, I feel like it was kind of meant to be more serious.
It definitely was for the Vincent.
For him,
but it is very common for actresses of that time, especially, to act that way.
Yeah.
Whether the material was sincere or not, whether the intention was there or not. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of up in the air whether that was intended or not.
That's the stuff with her is where it comes off the most corny, I think. Not a problem with her. I think it's something, I don't know, something off about it.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the way they showed I guess, for lack of better words, marriage to Satan, I guess.
That was mad weird, wasn't it?
It was, it was kind of like this weird fugue-like, bordering on psychedelic dream. Now, we watched the intro to this, which had an intro from some fucker.
Yeah.
Let me see if it says here. It says intro by some fucker.
Yeah, I think that was his name.
So that's super helpful. It doesn't say, but somebody learned it in the field.
Definitely not us.
Definitely not us. Paralleled it to the scene in Rosemary's Baby, and there is definitely, even color-wise, there is definitely parallels. Of course, the scene in Rosemary's Baby is a lot more visceral and disturbing, but it is somewhat like that. Only, again, dare I say, artsy. Like the marriage is consummated not in a sexual way, although the innuendo is there with a lot of penetrating of knives, but you see an array of like faiths of the world, none of them Christian, as they they're shamans and they're priests and shit like that, come on and each stab her and shit like that.
It's kind of weird.
It's weird. It's definitely like a move that a more artful minded person would make, and knowing Corman's tendencies, I can definitely see him going, this is a way to show this in a way that's a lot more elevated, whether that works or not.
I don't know if it comes across well fully.
I agree.
It's kind of confusing.
It's just weird.
I don't want to say confusing because you get it.
Yeah, it's just weird.
But it's just kind of weird.
It doesn't feel like the cheese stuff, but it also doesn't feel like a fully effective art scene.
I agree.
It's just like that's a really weird way to represent that.
That was odd. I kind of feel
but that also kind of pays off really cool with the bird stuff.
I do feel that they almost kind of felt like the need to mention what just happened in her dialogue afterwards too, because it was so like, what was that? The scene, Also, apparently this was cut from some parts. That was mentioned in the intro, so maybe that's why that dialogue scene was also in there. But I feel like if that dialogue scene wasn't in there, you would just been like, that was weird, wasn't it? What was that? Some homies dancing in the dark?
Homeboys coming out of some fog going like this.
Yeah.
With knives.
Some homie with a big ass head.
A big ass head homie, yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Anyway, anything else besides that?
No, I think those were my two big complaints. Was just that chick was kind of uninteresting, and the cornball factor does come through with some of the other people that I mentioned, the more satanic stuff, you know. And Vince, don't get me wrong, some of the satanic stuff he mentions, you could see some corn in there, but he pulls it off.
There's just, maybe it's just, I mean, his delivery's great in everything that he does, but he always did this. He always managed to make the shittiest, corniest. Not to insinuate that anything in this movie is shitty and corny, but in any movie, if it was shitty and corny, he somehow managed to rock it.
The homie literally is like, "Yo, Sane's my boy," and normally you'd be like, "That's super corny."
Yeah, and you're like,
"Yeah, that's his boy."
He's just so fucking good, man, and it has a lot to do again with the way he delivers. And I dare say that his face has a lot to do with it. There's just this static look of like kindness mixed with something sinister at all times. And when he sneers or when he's acting, kind of like a smug dick, the one side of that goes up higher. Yeah, he's just good, man. There's just something about Price. But anyway, there are other people in this, so I better stop smoking his fucking wiener. It's worthy to note that there's a couple of midges in this, or actually one midge and one
mad kid
playing a midge. In case you're wondering what a midge is, midget, a dwarf, if you will, if that's the proper nomenclature.
Nomenclature?
This is interesting. Yeah, damn, that's good, homie. That's interesting because that's actually another Edgar Allan Poe story called Hop Frog.
The midge?
Which fits the Edgar Allan Poe's Mad Tiny Guy. Yeah. That's what he called it. Yeah, Hop Frog is a story that fits thematically and in terms of just its overall throw. It's like a tiny version of the Masque of the Red Death, Hop Frog is, So to put it as a subplot in this seems very apropos, and it fits pretty damn nicely.
Apropos?
That's how I spelled it in my head. Fits very nicely in terms. In the midst of this other story, and it is kind of like the gnarliest scene in the movie.
Yeah, I gotta say, ultimately, I kind of was thankful that other chick was not a big part, because this homie comes in, and his part is more interesting. Really, his plot is kind of short.
Yeah,
like that.
It's diminutive, if you will.
Yeah, like it's like just that something happens in the beginning, and then he gets his mad revenge at the end. But
now he has a little scene in the middle when he's pimping out that ape suit.
Dude, he pimped that ape suit so well. I was expecting the coolest ape suit, and then it was just a shitty ape suit. But but you know what I mean. Like, it's kind of a small role in the grand scheme of the film. Damn, there's so many tiny jokes. So many small puns there. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. It is a gnarly ass scene that you're like, hell yeah, guy.
Yeah, memorable. He mad burns a dude. He lynches. It's not even a burn because he hangs that guy up. He burns a guy in a monkey suit guy.
Yeah, this homie gets revenge from a slap basically by burning a fool.
It's pretty rad, man.
In an ape suit.
The Hop Frog story itself has a kind of subtly different ending. I won't say subtly, but definitely a slightly different ending. And it's a lot more grisly in a lot of ways. But this is pretty grisly, especially for the time.
Grizzly? Ape?
Or apely, I should say. And it's just one of those moments where you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Get yours, Hop
Screw
Frog.
That guy, yeah.
Also, Hop Frog is a pretty cool name for a small guy.
He was kind of cool.
It kind of makes you wish there was a little bit more with him. Yeah. But that's literally the story of Hop Frog.
I like that midge. The little kid who was obviously dubbed was kind of like weird at first because her voice doesn't fit her body.
Yeah.
But I was like, I get it.
Yeah, it's a little kid playing because Hop Frog in the story is actually something that I kind of wish they would have done here, but also knowing Corman's later tendencies, I'm glad they didn't, is hideously deformed.
Creature of superhuman size and strength?
Yeah, basically. Only without the superhuman size and strength and awesomeness. But, so just imagine that. It probably could have gone wrong. So it's just a dwarven fella doing his thing. And he's good. He's good. He's just a likable character. But the other character is just a diminutive person. It's not, they don't have the dwarfism. So the way they portrayed that was by just getting a little kid to play her and then dubbing her. And it kind of works in that weird Freaks way, as in the movie. Because Freaks literally hired two people that just never grew past a certain stage. So they look like little kids, but they're actually adults. Well, they didn't have access to people like that. So they just got a little kid. Yeah. And dubbed her. And I thought it was pretty cool, actually. Yeah. Mad dubbing is, this... I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just like you say, it's like, whoa, that's clearly not her voice.
It's not bad, and it doesn't fit her body. And I think the little kid, don't get me wrong, she was really good for what she was doing. But she was like, very obviously, they told her to enunciate.
Yeah.
So her face expressions were like very exaggerated. So it was a little odd looking.
But it was a wise choice to dub her because it communicated without a doubt that this was supposed to be an adult. Yeah. Which also underlines kind of like the disturbing pedophilic nature of some of his guests and himself.
I was about to say, the casting a kid actually kind of gave more of a creep factor to that homie that gets
burned.
Yeah, because he has like this mad Jared ass line early on that you're like, damn.
Aped? yeah, he's mad Jared.
He's straight up like talking about corrupting her and shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, homie, that's some freaking Jared shit.
Yeah, even Price himself even indulges, well, not Price, actually, Prospero, his character, Prospero, indulges in that conversation too, suggesting he's done much the same.
Yeah.
And also he himself talks about corrupting the innocence of the character, our kind of audience into this as well. So there's that depravity, there's that sinful nature to this character. Coincidentally, later in the film, it's suggested, if not outright said, you tell me which, and by it's not outright said, there's no line that says it, but it's very highly visually suggested, in my opinion anyway, that the means by which the Red Death actually accessed the castle was not literally the Red Death walking in himself, but because earlier he kills the last remaining villagers that had that survived the Red Death, except for a child, which he says to spare, and you don't see that kid again, but the guards are like, I guess he's going to spare her. And that child you see later playing cards with the Red Death. So arguably there's that weird, like these dudes got their ass reamed for their pedophilic tendencies, weird pseudo theme there. It's kind of weird. It's kind of cool because, that's the way it should be.
It's funny too because you could also see that as like a part. This dude was talking about how there's a good side in the beginning. How there's a good side to Prosper, but that really isn't in the movie. He's just a piece of shit the whole time. But you could see that as
the man in the know.
Yeah, you could see that as being a good part. But then you're right, he is playing cards with that kid at the end. So.
I'm assuming we're talking about the scholar that was talking about. He said that
there's a good side to him. You're like, good. Nah, homie.
I assumed he was talking about the way he sees the innocent character, in terms of an equal to him, but by default of her, by proxy of her faith in her God, the Christian God, versus the dark God.
But ultimately he wants to break her down, so how's that good?
Yes, exactly. But when I watched this with a friend, he thought what you thought, which I think is what that guy was thinking, really, the scholar, what you're saying, what you're suggesting, that he spared a child. I never thought that. I thought he was like going to corrupt the child too. He was going to do things. He already had suggested it before.
Yeah, there is a scene when that other guy, Mad Jared's, the guy that got...
Fogels.
The guy that gets aped, when he Fogels, he does say, no, not corrupt, and then he goes on to like this thing. But the implication is the same.
Yeah.
He's saying the same shit. He just puts a fancy language to it, basically, which is a total Fogel move, by the way.
Fogeled.
Freaking pedos do that all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right, guy.
Yeah, I think.
I feel like we just beat that scholar.
Yeah, I always thought that what's the case was, and rewatched it here recently, and with you today, And I think I am right in that regard. I mean, it's very suggested by that scene, especially at the end.
Yeah.
Why is Death looking over this kid? The kid was spared by Prospero to take it to us, and then in the next few scenes, you see Death in the castle, and the Red Death is just bringing this plague.
Yeah.
You know, he handed the plague to an old woman at the beginning.
And there's a scene where Gino is gonna take the kid away, and someone comes in and takes the kid back. So there's definitely something. With
There's definitely a subtext of like, don't touch kids.
Yeah.
You know, message, a good message, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So pretty bad. Now, I did mention that this was a story that seemed shockingly prescient upon rewatching it recently. And if you watch it and keep the recent, and by recent I mean 2020 in case you're watching this later, the whole handling of the COVID crisis by the Trump administration, this was oddly, remember when Trump was holding parties in the White House, revelries, if you will, with all his cronies, and they're all like, ha ha ha, death, it ain't nothing, mocking death, but then everywhere in the country people were dying. That's literally what's happening in this movie, it was just a weird thing. And when I watched it with Senor Spielberg, or sometimes guest, he noted that, and I was like, damn, that's true, man. That really sticks out. So there's an odd presence, but that the thematic of social class divide and privilege is a timeless one. As long as there's been humans, there's been those that lord over others, their superiority based on their privilege and class, and just how much access they have to something that others don't. And the fact that they could crush them under their will is kind of their, their power, I guess, man. So it's a timeless theme, don't get me wrong, but it seemed especially prescient. Anything you want to add, man? Music, the effects, what?
I got a big problem with this movie.
All right. A bone to pick?
This homie, Vince,
Vinny P,
is like, yo, he has one rule. This is basically like a freaking castle full of heathens in which they cavort and do everything like gruesome, basically, 24/7. Though I gotta say, it's pretty tame from today's standards.
Yeah.
No one's twerking.
They pretty much just dance.
Yeah, there's no twerking on people's penises or anything. They're just dancing the whole time. Maybe there's a little jackass miming, but that's about it. Oh, there's a chick with a mad mustache. That's pretty heathenistic. Like, who does that, man? Shave that shit. Anyway, this homie has one rule. Don't wear red. Mm-hmm. Don't tempt the freaking death, basically. Yeah. Then you cut to the freaking ball. 90% of the people have red.
Maybe 90% is a bit overshot, but I get what you're saying. Like, there was definitely red in those
shit costumes. Ton of red. Like, just because it's a different shade, it's still red, guy.
Yeah.
Like, come on, homie.
There was definitely a lot of people wearing red, and he was only pissed at the red death.
The one guy wearing the exact shade of red that he was thinking of.
Yeah, it is something I'd never noticed before. Now I can't unsee.
So much red.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is a pretty rad little production, man. It definitely has a visual style of its own that... I mean, I know it's Rogue style, but if you're familiar with the work of, like, Mario Bava and how he used these, like, rich colors and stuff, there's definitely shades of that in this. It just looks nice, It's a nice looking production.
Yeah, I'll say it's insanely colorful, and it could have easily looked very cheap. Mm-hmm. Especially those colored rooms. Mm-hmm. You could see those looking super cheap and tacky, and shitty. But they do look really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do, of course, they designed it this way. But Rogue he's just a master cinematographer. And, he makes it look as it should. As indulgent, but not, in a way that repulses. It's indulgent for the character, so that's how it looks in terms of the movie. And even when it's not that, when you see the deaths, they're all color-coded deaths. Yeah. Basically, there's a blue one, there's a yellow one.
They're like, homie, I just murked like 50 dudes up in this piece.
Yeah, but they're shot up against this murky, muddy background. But they stand out, and they as they should, as for what they are. It just looks great. It's a great looking production.
Yeah, it really shows just how much an eye for something goes, because the costumes are really simple. They're just like these really colorful robes, basically, that could easily look cheap and shitty.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know,
they even have like one. At least I noticed on one of them. I'm sure they all have it. They have like the fringes are like little balls.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so that could easily look super corny, but just the way it's shot looks nice.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And also, there's like there's almost like a fisheye kind of look to some of like the moving. There's a lot of like Vincent Price walking around in a chamber or whatever, and the camera follows him.
Yeah.
And there's like this fisheye kind of look to it.
In previous productions, you know, obviously because they were so small, Roger Corman hadn't used pricey camera equipment and lenses, and he shot this in CinemaScope, so you'll see that, like you say, when you move, and it's actually kind of a cool effect.
Yeah,
and it's kind of fascinating to watch how they managed to keep Price in focus even when he's at the edges of the screen.
That's the thing.
It's great.
I was gonna mildly complain, like when I noticed it at first, I was like, that's kind of unfortunate because he doesn't stay in center a lot of the time, and it seems like that's what they were trying to do. Yeah, him staying in center because it's following him. But then he gets off center and he's in focus.
Yeah.
Even though the corners are usually out of focus when he's in center. Yeah. So it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks really nice, man. It's a very distinctive look, you know. And then of course, again, and hats off to Rogue, the camera work, you know, it's leagues above what Corman had access to before. And it really shows. It's fantastic. The music is what you would expect of a piece like this, and it's fitting, and a good accompaniment to it. Is it something I would rock on my fucking stereo? No, of course not. But it is very fitting to this type of production. So there's nothing to complain about there.
There's a creepy old guy in a dungeon that just stays like this for way too long.
He gets mad creeper points.
You think he died?
Definitely died.
Oh man,
I forgot him on the set. He's bones now.
Like, damn, homie.
That's right. The set's somehow still there. Probably is though.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, unless you have anything else to say, let's get to a scale. Come on, man. A grade on the scale of 1 to 10. Give it to me. Final thoughts. And what do you grade this?
I think it was pretty good. I like Vinny P. Even though he might have been a diddler. In fact, we confirmed it here. He was
pretty much. Had diddled at the very least.
Oh, yeah, he definitely had. I'm just saying, like...
He was definitely planning on saving that kid.
Yeah, dude. I agree with that, man. You're right, dude. He was playing cards with that. You're right.
You're right. I mean, they couldn't outright say
he diddled.
Things,
yeah.
Come on, guy. Given the context clues that we would seen, plus that death card scene, very clear that's how death stepped upon those doors.
That kid was mad next to some
dead people,
infected ass corpses, man. Who does that?
Yeah, just saying here. But
Gino, though. Anyway, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Mild worries in the front that were pretty quickly put aside, mainly being that chick. Cool midge. How often does that happen?
Cool midgets.
I feel like midgets need cooler roles, man.
Yeah, we can't just rely on Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis can't rely on Warwick Davis.
Or Peter Dinklage.
The Dinkster has got a solid. But we can't put all the weight of midget roles on the Dinkster.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like calling him the Dinkster was not...
That was all you guys.
It's not good, right?
I called him Dinklage.
Maybe like the Dink Man. No?
Dinkorama?
I think Dink is... like very indicative of somebody small. Dink.
Yeah, he should have changed that.
Like the Ledge. Let's call it. No, the Ledge is pretty bad too. But anyway, whatever.
He should have changed that last name. Yeah. I agree. Like large man.
Nope.
Oh, Vincent Price has some weird ways of saying certain words in this. What does he say for bad instead of for bait?
Oh yeah, for bad. There's a lot of like theatrical style delivery.
He has someone says shit, what does he say? It was a freaking line we were mocking the whole movie and I forgot it already. Oh, anyway, it was funny. Anyway, I'll give it a mad 9.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie, man. Madman. Well, somebody else said that.
Yeah. You're a madman.
You're a madman. We're madmen. We are madmen.
Yeah.
Man, it's kind of hard to duplicate. But anyway, the point is, I love this movie, man. It's a favorite. definitely definitely a movie that for anybody that criticizes Corman, there's plenty of reasons to criticize Corman Productions, whether you love them or not. There's always like something where you go, see, the guy did have talent, or it's not always that way, or what have you. And this is, I think, a shining jewel on his crown, if you will.
The Corman crown?
The Corman crown, I think they call it. Unfortunately, they spell it with K's.
Yeah.
And he calls it cool. So you're like, come on, guy, 3 K's?
Yeah, you gotta stop, guy.
What are you doing? Anyway.
He also wears a lot of white, too. It's not good.
Yeah, man. Like, he's like, this is the white death suit. He's like, the white death suit didn't have a point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anyway, Roger Corman's not in the KKK. In case you wonder. The point is, no, yeah, man. This movie it's fucking dope. And I say that if this movie sucked in terms of technical production and all that, and direction, all that shit, it would still be rocked in terms of its socks coming off by Vincent Price. Because he's just great, man. Very few movies that he didn't make his role work, Although I've seen a few where I was like, man, this movie's abysmal. But it's usually where he has a small role. And they didn't let him go Price on that boy. But anyway, the point is, this is all Price doing his thing, and you can't go wrong with that. Lavish, beautiful production, and has a pretty solid message, and also a sub message about not being a total pedo,
which is true, man. That's lost on many people
apparently. But anyway, yeah, man, I give it a solid 9.5. It's awesome, man. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. Even if you don't like old school movies, you understand how old school movies kind of have a different feel and approach, and the way they were acted out and stuff. It's still, shit, man. Give it a little chance, man. You might like it, man.
At least for that ape subplot, man.
That boy burned that guy in the ape suit, man.
That homie died, dude.
That was totally worth it, too. But anyway, let us know what you think about that. Hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons, because we're out.